I've decided to start a new life without you." The words hung in the air of the elegant restaurant where we had gathered to celebrate my daughter's college graduation. Gregory, my husband of 28 years, stood with his champagne glass still raised. The toast he was supposed to give to Amelia's success now replaced by that stunning announcement. The sound of silverware stopped. Conversations froze mid-sentence. About 50 pairs of eyes turned toward us, waiting for what they all expected. Tears, shouting, maybe even a dramatic scene. But I didn't give them that. Instead, I smiled. "Congratulations on your honesty," I said evenly. "My name is Bianca Caldwell, and I'm 54 years old." Up until that moment, I had been the picture-perfect wife and mother. I'd put aside my own career dreams to stand by Gregory through 3 business ventures, 2 career changes, and endless self-discovery phases. I had raised our wonderful daughter, Amelia, who sat beside me, her graduation cap still slightly crooked, her face frozen in shock. From the corner of my eye, I noticed Cassandra Wells, Gregory's much younger girlfriend, sitting awkwardly at a back table with people I had called friends for years. Friends who clearly knew about the affair but never thought to warn me. The same Cassandra who once came to me for career advice and spent Christmas at our home. Keeping my composure, I reached into my handbag and pulled out a sealed, cream-colored envelope. I placed it neatly beside Gregory's plate. "What's this?" he asked, his smug look beginning to fade. "Something for you to read later," I replied calmly. Then I turned to Amelia, whose pale face mirrored disbelief. I kissed her cheek softly. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. Today is still about your achievement." After that, I stood, smoothed my dress, and addressed the silent crowd. "Please enjoy your meal. I wish you all a lovely afternoon." Then I walked out of the restaurant, head high, feeling 50 pairs of eyes follow me until the heavy door closed behind me, muffling the rising whispers. Outside, the Augusta summer heat hit me like a wave, but I welcomed it. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely. Behind me, I heard the door fly open and Gregory's voice break through, no longer confident, but sharp and panicked. "Bianca, what the hell is this? What have you done?" I didn't turn around. I kept walking, a small, satisfied smile forming on my lips. That envelope I'd handed him contained the beginning of my carefully planned revenge, something I had been preparing for months. In our marriage, I had always been the practical one. Gregory chased dreams. I kept us grounded. I was the one who saved for Amelia's education while he threw money into his friend's failing restaurant. I worked extra hours at Trevanta Corp. As a finance manager when he quit his stable job to follow his passion for building handcrafted furniture, a passion that lasted exactly 6 months before he got bored. My own dream, starting a financial consulting firm for women, was always postponed. After Amelia graduates, I'd say. After Gregory finds his footing. Then, 3 months ago, I spotted something strange in our joint accounts. Small transfers to an unfamiliar account. After managing our family's finances for 20 years, I knew right away something wasn't right. I could have confronted him immediately, but I waited. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the quiet distance that had been growing between us. So I started investigating quietly. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Gregory had been moving money into a secret account for over a year. He'd been taking Cassandra to fine restaurants, buying her jewelry, even browsing beachfront properties, all while telling me we had to tighten our belts for retirement. Then came the text messages. He'd left his phone unlocked one night, and I saw everything. Messages about their new life, about how he was finally free, about how they'd make their grand start the day after Amelia's graduation. The day he'd planned to publicly leave me. What Gregory seemed to forget, or never understood, was that I've been a finance professional for 30 years. I know how to follow a money trail. I know how to track assets. And most importantly, I remembered the prenuptial agreement we signed 28 years ago, the one he insisted on when I had more family wealth than he did. That same agreement included a fidelity clause, which would become his downfall. While he was planning his escape, I was building my case. I hired attorneys. I documented every shady transfer. I gathered proof of his affair. I prepared the divorce papers. I timed it all perfectly, and knowing Gregory would wait until after Amelia's graduation to make his big move. What he didn't expect was that I had already filed the divorce papers that morning, hours before his announcement. With the paperwork safely sealed in the court's records, where he couldn't access them yet, I was already 3 steps ahead. I didn't go back to the restaurant. Instead, I drove home, to the spacious colonial house in Augusta's historic district that we'd bought 15 years ago. And for the first time in decades, I felt completely in control. The very house I was returning to. The one Gregory had already promised to Cassandra. According to those text messages he never knew I'd read. Sat waiting for me like a stage set frozen in time. I parked in the driveway and walked calmly into what had been our shared home for more than a decade. Everything looked exactly as it always had. Family photos lined the walls. The antique grandfather clock that had belonged to my father ticked steadily in the hallway. And the worn leather couch, the one where Gregory and I once dreamed about the future, still sat in its familiar place. But even with everything unchanged, nothing felt the same. Upstairs, in our master bedroom, I opened the closet. Just as I suspected, Gregory's clothes were already packed neatly in suitcases hidden in the back, ready for his big move tomorrow. I couldn't help but smile. That was Gregory in a nutshell. Careful with his wardrobe, careless with everything that truly mattered. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages poured in from friends at the restaurant, from Amelia, even from Gregory's sister Diana, who had flown in for the graduation. I ignored them all except for my daughter. I texted her back, "I'm okay. This isn't your burden to carry. Enjoy your graduation day. We'll talk tonight. I love you." I'd protected Amelia from the truth for months. I didn't want to burden her final semester with our family problems. She'd be upset that I hadn't told her sooner, but eventually I knew she'd understand. She had my practicality and her father's charisma, a combination that had helped her graduate with honors. About 3 hours later, I heard Gregory's car pull into the driveway. Moments later, the front door slammed open. "Bianca!" he yelled, his voice echoing through the house. "Where are you?" I was sitting calmly in the living room, reviewing documents on my laptop. I closed it as he stormed in, his face flushed with anger, the envelope clutched in his hand. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, waving the papers. "You served me with divorce papers today, and of all days." "I thought the timing suited your plans perfectly," I replied evenly. "You wanted to start your new life, didn't you? I'm simply helping you make that transition. You had no right to do this," he shouted. "I had every right," I said, my voice steady. "Just like you had every right to choose Cassandra." "We all make choices, Gregory," he sneered. "The prenup expired years ago. Any lawyer will tell you that." I allowed myself a small, knowing smile. Actually, it didn't. Section 12 clearly states that the fidelity clause remains valid for the entire duration of the marriage. Your lawyer should have told you that. "Oh, wait, you didn't consult one, did you?" The color drained from his face. He finally realized that the very prenuptial agreement he had once demanded to protect his supposed future earnings was now about to cost him everything. The house, the vacation property in Savannah, and his share of our retirement funds. His big restaurant announcement had just become the most expensive moment of his life. "You can't do this to me," Gregory said weakly, sinking onto the couch. "We built this life together," I replied. "And you chose to end it, just not in the way you expected." His phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at it but didn't answer. No doubt Cassandra, wondering where he was and why he hadn't followed through on their carefully timed plan. "You've always been calculating, Bianca," he said bitterly. "But this is cold. What about our history? 28 years together. Does that mean nothing to you?" I studied him closely. This was the man I had loved for nearly 3 decades. The man who had held my hand through 2 miscarriages before Amelia was born. The man who once surprised me with a weekend getaway to Charleston for our 10th anniversary. When had he changed? Or had he always been this person, and I had just been too loyal, too blind to see it? Our history meant everything to me, I said quietly. That's exactly why your betrayal hurt so much. His expression softened, sensing an opening. Then maybe we can fix this. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Gregory, I said firmly. It was deliberate. You moved our money. You took her shopping. You looked at houses with her. You planned a public breakup to humiliate me in front of everyone. His face hardened again. You're exaggerating. Am I? I asked, lifting my phone and opening the voice recorder. Then I pressed play. Gregory's voice filled the room. After the graduation, I'll tell her it's over. A public setting is better. She won't make a scene in front of everyone. Then came Cassandra's voice. And she has no idea about the money? Gregory again. None. Bianca trusts me completely. That's her weakness. The color drained from his face. You recorded our conversations? That's illegal. Not in Georgia, it isn't, I replied calmly. As long as one person consents. And since I was in the conversation, that would be me. And no, I didn't record your private moments with Cassandra. I'm not cruel. I only recorded what I needed. Your plans to defraud me. Gregory jumped up, clearly rattled. I need to make some calls. Of course, I said evenly. You might start with your attorney. I'll be staying at Diana's tonight. Diana's? He looked stunned. My sister's house? I nodded. Yes, she's quite upset with you, actually. She was the one who saw you and Cassandra together last Christmas. She didn't tell me right away. She gave you a chance to end it first. You told her it was nothing, that you'd stop. When she realized you hadn't, she came to me. That hit him hard. Gregory had never imagined his own sister would take my side. Everyone's betraying me, he muttered. Ironic, isn't it? I said quietly, picking up my purse and the small overnight bag I'd already packed. You have until tomorrow evening to collect your things. After that, the locks will be changed. As I walked toward the door, he called after me, his tone desperate. What about Amelia? Have you even thought about how this will affect her? I turned, anger breaking through my calm for the first time. Don't you dare use our daughter as a shield, Gregory. You weren't thinking about her when you were planning your new beachfront life with Cassandra. His phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, then groaned. Problem? I asked, unable to hide my satisfaction. Cassandra's already at the apartment, he said bitterly. She's moved her things in, I smiled. You mean the apartment you leased under both your names? The one you signed for last month? He frowned, confused. You might want to call the leasing office, I added. That application was flagged for credit issues and never finalized. The agent called our home phone for verification. I handled it myself. With that, I walked out, leaving Gregory alone to face the first of many consequences. His perfect plan was crumbling faster than he could keep up. Diana lived across town, in a charming bungalow near the university where she taught literature. When I arrived, she met me at the door with a fierce hug. I just heard from Amelia, she said, pulling me inside. Are you okay? Better than I expected, I admitted, following her to the kitchen, where a bottle of wine was already open. I never thought Gregory would pull something like that, she said, pouring 2 glasses. Announcing it in a restaurant, in front of everyone. He's lost his mind. It was meant to humiliate me, I explained, accepting the glass. A public breakup, so I'd look hysterical if I reacted. Diana's face darkened. My brother always did have a flair for drama, but this is low, even for him. We settled in her sunroom, surrounded by plants and shelves of books. Diana had never married, preferring her independence and her work. There were times I'd envied that freedom. "So," she asked, "what did you put in that envelope that made him so furious?" I told her everything: the divorce filing, the proof of his financial deception, and most importantly, the prenuptial agreement that would leave him with far less than he'd planned. "The prenup?" Diana chuckled darkly. "I remember when he insisted on that. Father had just given him the money for his first business, and he was terrified of losing it. The irony is delicious." Just then, my phone rang. It was Amelia. I took a deep breath before answering. "Mom," she said immediately, her voice trembling. "I'm coming over to Aunt Diana's." "Honey, you don't have to." "I'm already on my way," she interrupted. "Dad's telling everyone you've lost your mind, that you've been plotting this for months. He's saying awful things." Of course he was. Gregory always twisted the story to make himself the victim. "Let him talk," I said gently. "The truth will come out soon enough." 20 minutes later, Amelia arrived, still in her graduation dress, makeup smudged from tears. She fell into my arms like she used to after a nightmare. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice muffled against my shoulder. "I didn't want to ruin your last semester," I said softly. "You worked so hard for this day." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Well, Dad took care of ruining it." We moved into the living room and I told her everything. The affair, the secret accounts, the planned public breakup. "I knew something was off with Dad," Amelia admitted. "He's been distant, always on his phone. But I never imagined this." "None of us want to see the truth about people we love," Diana said quietly. Then my phone buzzed with a message from Philip Anderson, my attorney. The emergency filing had been approved. The accounts I'd flagged were officially frozen, pending the divorce proceedings. Gregory now had limited access to funds, enough to live, but not enough to chase his dream life with Cassandra. I showed the text to Diana and Amelia. "Good," Amelia said firmly. "He deserves it." Her loyalty warmed me, though I knew I had to stay level-headed. "He's still your father," I reminded her. "Your relationship with him is separate from what's happening between us." "Maybe someday," she said, shaking her head. "But not now." He hugged me this morning and told me how proud he was, while he was planning to blow up our family just hours later. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Diana went to answer it, and when she came back, her expression was grim. "It's Gregory," she said quietly. "And he's not alone." I steadied myself as she led Gregory and Cassandra into the living room. Cassandra looked uneasy, shifting from one foot to the other, her eyes darting nervously around the room. She was 37, not exactly a trophy wife, but still 17 years younger than me, with shoulder-length blonde hair and the kind of self-assurance that comes from never truly struggling. Gregory, on the other hand, looked furious. The desperation I'd seen earlier had hardened into anger. "Bianca, you need to stop this nonsense," he snapped. "Unfreeze the accounts. We can talk like reasonable adults." Amelia stood up, moving slightly in front of me. "Maybe you should have tried being reasonable before humiliating Mom in front of everyone," she said sharply. Gregory's eyes widened, as if just realizing our daughter was there. "Amelia, this doesn't involve you." "Doesn't involve me?" she repeated, incredulous. "You destroyed our family on my graduation day, and it doesn't involve me?" Cassandra touched Gregory's arm nervously. "Greg, maybe we should go." He brushed her hand away. "No, I'm not leaving until Bianca agrees to act rationally." Diana crossed her arms. "From where I'm standing, Bianca seems to be the only rational one here. You're the one who created this disaster, Gregory." I stayed seated, watching quietly. For years, I had been the peacemaker, smoothing conflicts, keeping everyone calm. But not anymore. That role had drained me for years. and I was finally ready to let it go. The accounts will stay frozen until the preliminary hearing, I said evenly. That's in 3 days. The judge will decide how everything should be divided then. 2 days? Gregory blurted out. What am I supposed to do until then? You still have your personal account, I reminded him. The one you've been quietly moving money into for the past year. That should keep you afloat. Cassandra's head snapped toward him. You have another account? With how much in it? It was clear now that Gregory hadn't been completely honest with her either. He ignored her and turned back to me. This is spiteful, Bianca. You're not like this. Maybe you never really knew me, I replied calmly. Just like I never truly knew you. Amelia looked at Cassandra. Did you know he planned to make his big announcement at my graduation celebration? Cassandra looked embarrassed. I thought he was going to speak to your mother in private. What he did today wasn't what we discussed. Gregory shot her a sharp, wounded look. Their perfect little alliance was already showing cracks. I think you both should leave, Diana said, her voice firm. You've done enough damage for one day. Amelia, Gregory tried again. You have to understand. Relationships change. Sometimes people grow apart. Amelia's expression hardened. What I understand is that you're a coward. You couldn't even give Mom the decency of a private conversation. And you were stealing from us while I worked 2 jobs to help pay for my textbooks. Because you said money was tight. Gregory's face paled. That's not what happened. It's exactly what happened. Amelia cut in. Please leave, Dad. I can't even look at you right now. The silence that followed was thick and painful. Finally, Gregory turned and headed for the door, Cassandra trailing behind. He paused before leaving. This isn't over, Bianca. I'll fight you on this. You're welcome to try, I said, meeting his gaze steadily. After they left, Amelia sank down beside me on the sofa, tears spilling down her cheeks. I've never spoken to Dad like that before. I wrapped my arm around her. Doing what's right can hurt, but sometimes it's the only way. Diana came in with fresh glasses of wine. To new beginnings, she said, lifting hers. Indeed, I replied softly. The ending of one life was the beginning of another. The preliminary hearing was held in a small courtroom on a rainy Tuesday morning. I arrived with my attorney, Philip. Gregory showed up with a young corporate lawyer he'd hired last minute, someone completely out of his depth in family law. The judge, a sharp-eyed older woman who didn't tolerate theatrics, reviewed our prenuptial agreement carefully. This document appears valid, she said, peering over her glasses. Do you dispute its terms? Gregory's lawyer hesitated. Your Honor, we believe the agreement has expired due to the length of the marriage. The judge read aloud from the document. Section 18 states clearly that the agreement lasts for the duration of the marriage and any legal proceedings that follow. There is no expiration date. Gregory leaned in to whisper to his nervous lawyer. Additionally, the judge continued, the documented transfer of funds violates the financial disclosure clause in Section 23. She glanced up. The freeze on all joint accounts will remain in place until the full discovery process is complete. Mr. Caldwell may continue using his personal account. The family home remains in Mrs. Caldwell's possession under the infidelity clause. Gregory's face turned crimson. This is outrageous, he muttered. Mr. Caldwell, the judge said sharply, I suggest you read what you signed. Court will reconvene in 30 days. As we left, Gregory caught up with me in the hallway. Bianca, please. Can't we talk this through? 28 years together, that has to mean something. It did, I said, until you decided it didn't. Then I walked away, leaving him standing in the corridor, finally realizing the gravity of his choices. Word spread quickly among our friends. Some called to offer sympathy, others out of curiosity. I kept my responses brief and dignified. Gregory and I are separating, I would say. These things happen. Meanwhile, Gregory's carefully built image, the loyal husband, successful businessman, was falling apart. The financial freeze meant he couldn't deliver on the promises he'd made to Cassandra. Their beachfront property deal collapsed, and he had to cancel the deposit on the luxury car he'd ordered. 2 weeks after the hearing, Diana called, amusement in her voice. "Have you heard?" Cassandra moved out. "Already?" I asked, not shocked but mildly impressed. She found out Gregory's business isn't doing nearly as well as he claimed. Apparently, the big savings account he bragged about doesn't exist. She told her friend Jennifer she's not interested in being with a man who's broke. I couldn't help laughing. He always did live in his own illusion. While Gregory's life unraveled, mine was rebuilding. The personal savings I had maintained separately gave me freedom he hadn't counted on. I rented a small office downtown and finally started the consultancy I'd dreamed of for years. My first clients were 2 women going through divorces. Word of mouth spread quickly, and soon I was helping women navigate financial challenges during major life changes. Divorce, widowhood, career transitions. The work was deeply fulfilling in a way my old corporate job never was. Amelia, now working for a marketing firm in Charleston, called often. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," she told me. "You're helping people when they need it most." "I'm just doing what I wish someone had done for me," I said. Preparing women to stand on their own. For the first time in years, I was valued for my skills, not my patience. The final divorce hearing landed on what would have been our 29th anniversary. Poetic timing. Really, Gregory arrived looking worn out. I'd heard his business was barely staying afloat without my support. Cassandra was long gone, already seeing a real estate developer from Savannah. Most of our friends had distanced themselves after learning the truth about his deceit. The judge upheld the prenuptial agreement completely. Gregory was left with his personal belongings, his struggling business, and the remaining money in his private account, most of which went to pay his lawyer. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and 70% of our joint investments, just as the agreement outlined in cases of infidelity. It was poetic justice. The document Gregory had once insisted on to protect himself had ended up protecting me instead. After court, he approached me quietly. "I made a terrible mistake," he said. "Is there any chance—" "No," I said gently but firmly. "That door is closed," he nodded. "I understand. I hope you find happiness, Bianca. You deserve it." It was the most honest thing he'd said to me in years. 6 months later, Caldwell Financial Transitions was thriving. I'd moved into a larger office and hired 2 associates. My work focused on helping women build secure financial futures during life's biggest changes. Amelia visited often. "You know what's funny?" she said one afternoon. "If Dad had just been honest, he might have kept half of everything." "Sometimes people can't see past what they want in the moment," I replied. The woman who once defined herself as Gregory's wife and Amelia's mother had evolved. Now I was a mentor, business owner, and advocate. The envelope I'd handed Gregory at that restaurant hadn't just ended my marriage. It had opened a new door I didn't even know existed. Behind it, I found not revenge, but renewal. In protecting my financial future, I had reclaimed something far more valuable: myself.